joking. Good to go? All right.
What
good
they
mo-
say about that word.
Assumptions.
Fun. Happy Wednesday. We have a rowdy group in here. Calling our meeting to order, my name is Michelle Gomes. I'm the co-chair of the Legislative Committee. I will be calling this meeting to order for February 19th, 2025, and we would ask for a roll call, please.
Bates. Doherty.
Doherty here.
Gripe.
Here.
Molina.
Molina present.
Strathman.
Here.
Linder. And Gums.
Gums is present. Oh, and Pirog. Good morning. 1, 2. Yes, we have a quorum. You do the math. We have them.
Thank you.
Do you want to run this, Bill? I'm just, I love you, but. All right, we do have one remote attendance request, or two, sorry, Gary. Mr. Doherty, nope. Molina and Mr. Linder. And Mr. Doherty. No objection, welcome. I would request a motion for the approval of the minutes from January 22nd, 2025.
Gripe moves for unanimous consent for the approval of the minutes from February or January 2025.
So ordered without objection. We do have one person signed up for public comment. That individual is online for us this morning. So we would like to welcome Mr. Mark Avalar for public comment if you are ready, sir.
I am ready. Good morning, Madam Co-Chair Gums and Lindner, as well as the committee. Welcome to the newer members of the Legislative Committee. Going back to when I first addressed the committee back in December of 2022, one of my passion areas, in addition to mental health, has also been labor laws, and in particular, the ongoing dispute over independent contractors and the challenges that 1099s have faced, particularly in the last 6 years, both out of Washington and out of other states, particularly California. And as shared in back in 2023, State Representative Suzanne Ness has filed independent contractor positive legislation. And under the new session, the 104th General Assembly, I want to get this on your radar. It's her House Bill 1311 is her refiling of the independent contractor common law codification to help prevent bad laws like California. So we can put that on your agenda. But also last Thursday in Washington, there were two very positive developments for legislation. I'd also like to have you all track from Washington through the federal lobbyists. HR 1319, which is the Modern Worker Empowerment Act, and HR 1320, the Modern Worker Security Act. I'll send follow-up in details later as my time is limited. But I want to turn to the agenda items, particularly House Bill 1449 from State Representative Ness, County Administrator. And for the record, I do live in the 66th District, which is represented by Representative Ness. I do not know what the breakdown will be during your new business, but I do want to, many of the legislation that's filed has something that promulgated the legislation to be filed. And this one clearly comes back to the Kane County Board, and in particular, the Kane County Board meeting of February the 13th, 2024. And if you review when State Representative Ness addressed that meeting at the 3-hour, 22-minute, and 40-second mark, she did remark about how long the meeting had gone, and she gave her reference of being a former McHenry County board member, which has a county administrator. And unfortunately, that's something, this was talked about a lot last year. you know, I'm hoping that the new county board will be able to streamline its process, somehow bring the business of the county and the inputs of the residents and of all county board members, but do it in a very succinct process. And looks like this legislation wants to address that through a county administrator. I look forward to your discussion of what the lobbyists are going to say, but it's definitely on your radar screen already. And residents will be watching because let's face it, this did come from Kane County, and that's where this started. So if you
Thank you.
will review the meeting minutes from back then and the video at that 3 hour, 22-minute,
Mark.
40-second mark, it's very quick to see why this legislation
All
was
right.
filed. With that, I know I'm out of time. Thank you for listening. I look forward to your meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Avalar. We'll note that. I did write a note for you. So very good. All right, moving on to the legislative update, our lobbyist team, McGuire Woods, is online. If we could get them pulled up here so we can get a little update of what's going on, that would be fantastic.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, there you are. Mr. Bales is, there we go. Thank you. The floor is yours, sir.
Thanks. I'll be brief, Ken, with the with things that are happening in Washington. There's been a lot that's happened since President Trump was sworn in. Numerous executive orders, a lot of fits and starts as it relates to federal spending. There's a temporary restraining order on the administration pausing some disbursements from the federal government. It's caused a lot of angst for local units of government and states across the country. Some programs were put on pause, restarted. Things that were to be restarted still haven't reopened, and we're monitoring that as the situation evolves. Anecdotally, and talking to one of our U.S. senators here, they'd been in communication with the Department of Transportation, who even noted at the time of one of the executive orders that they had received no word from the administration that there was going to be a pause. So it's created some confusion. The unfortunate answer to a lot of what will happen and what's going to happen is we have to wait and see. The courts have stepped in to address these executive orders and administration actions. So we're monitoring them, providing updates to the Legislative Committee in real time as we receive them and gather them. Concurrently, Congress is proceeding with what is known as a budget reconciliation process. This is a sort of legislative procedural process where Congress can make changes to tax policy and spending policy. It's a little bit complicated and confusing. Certain things, for example, can't be touched. You know, this process can't touch Social Security and certain mandatory spending. But one of the things that occurs during this is that it does not require a signature by the president at the end of the process. And it can come in under the filibuster threshold in the Senate. So both the Republican-controlled Senate and Republican-controlled House have dueling budget resolutions. These budget resolutions, they're talking about trying to bring them up for a vote as early as next week. What happens is that resolution gives instructions to the authorizing committees in the House. So the authorizing committees will set sort of policy and programmatic goals in their committee, different from when they're authorized, then they have to be appropriated by the Appropriations Committee. That'll happen. They're talking about that would occur in March, and then they'd vote on an entire package come April. There's a lot of reductions to certain committees and spending pots instructed in this resolution. We're kind of going through that now. We won't know what programs are targeted till those authorizing committees work through the instructions set forth in the resolution. So there's really a lot of wait and see there. There are fairly substantial reductions being called for. So we'll report back when we know. At the same time, the federal government is operating under what's known as a continuing resolution for fiscal year 24 spending levels. That just means that we're operating under flat spending from fiscal year 24. That expires March 14th of this year. We been monitoring what the Appropriation Committee, what is known as the Four Corners, which is the chairs, the Republican chairs of the committee and the ranking members, the Democrats. They're negotiating right now on top line spending levels to try to come to an agreement for fiscal year 25 spending. That March 14th deadline is barreling to us fast. If I'm to prognosticate here a little bit, our expectation is if they can come to an agreement, they will probably pass some sort of omnibus spending bill for fiscal year 25. It is also sometimes affectionately referred to as a cromnibus, which is a continuing resolution omnibus. That is a scenario where they just pass FY 25 spending at the same levels as FY 24. We just don't know. It is unlikely they have time to pass the 12 appropriation bills individually that would be sort of regular order. Important to the county in this regard is that last year we were successful in getting some earmarks and spending requests for the county into fiscal year 25 bills last year. What will happen to those? Right now, they're not moving forward. That is out of our control. That's just the nature of how the budget process and these CRs are working. We are hoping there's a chance that the appropriators kind of choose to cut and paste fiscal year 25 congressionally directed spending items, including the counties, and just shove them into this omnibus that they may pass. There's just a lot of what ifs. So we're in constant communication with the congressional delegation and appropriators about this issue. The worst case scenario, federal shutdown. You have a slim majority for the Republicans in the House. You have some Democrats being pushed by their constituents to hold the line on what they believe is happening in Washington. It's to be determined if the Republicans would have the votes to pass an appropriations package. The past ones that have passed last year, the continuing resolutions, have all been accomplished with Democratic votes. So there's a lot of wait and see going on. That's the big picture state of play. You know, you've had over 2,400 bills introduced in both the House and the Senate. Many of those are going nowhere. What happens with those bills is if they're substantial and realistic, they get put into other packages that pass throughout the year. But we're very early in the process, and so we'll keep you updated as things proceed. Again, it's a lot of hurry up and wait at the moment. So I'll kick it over to Louis, and then happy to take questions after he's done. Unless you want me to take questions now.
No, I think Louis, we can do that. Well, does anybody have any questions right now yes, Madam Chair has a question for you, Mr. Bales.
Hi, Greg. If you could send us a list of what appropriation has been designated for the county. I know we've got one for potentially for transportation that came from Senator Durbin, but I don't know if that has been allocated or not. But specifically what those are, so that if we need to, we can start making some phone calls.
Yep, I think I'll dig up a memo I think we shared at the time of those being secured. And let me clarify what that means. So when we make congressionally directed spending requests, or in the House, they call it community project funding. I still call them earmarks. When we work with the delegation, the individual members go through requests, they make a selection, they have to consult and confer with the Appropriations Committee. And then when they're selected by those members and the committee approves them, and then they get passed, they're put into those draft appropriation bills. So we were successful in getting the members to select them last year, get it through the Appropriations Committee. But unfortunately, those bills did not pass. Just that's bigger than us. That's the nature of Congress. So we're now waiting to see if they go back and take those old requests and shove them into a new package. But to be clear, we made the big first most important hurdle. Once that happens, it really gets into the leadership of Congress. So I just wanted to give a primer on that before, but yes, we'll send over the lists for your review.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Now, Louis, are you there?
Yep.
Floor
Good
is
morning,
yours, sir.
lovely Springfield. I think the phrase of the day that Greg kept repeating is a lot of hurry up and wait. So today is the governor's budget address here at noon, but the actual budget won't likely be passed until May 30th. Things were looking dire at the end of last year with a $3.1 billion budget deficit, but the last few days we've gotten word that things are much better due to some updated S&P economic forecasts, and revenue projections are up, so no tax increases are expected. We'll know more when he gives the budget address at noon, and we hope to give you guys some bullet points and highlights right after. In terms of legislation, there have been over 6,300 bills filed. They're off to a slow start with committees, starting in full force this week, even though they've been in since January. Some of the things we're tracking are a quick take legislation for Randall Hobbs Road that has not been assigned to substantive committee yet. The administrator legislation that was mentioned earlier that's been assigned to House Counties Committee. And then there's a handful of bills to allow counties to lease public property for a public purpose. Representative Hirschauer is carrying those in the House, Senator Castro in the Senate. And so we're just monitoring and waiting for committee to assign these and a lot of those 6,300 bills out.
Thank you very much, Louis. And also for the committee's information, our team's been working very hard. We had a late night phone call last night addressing some issues with the legislators, our team and our civil division. We all were able to navigate that phone conversation. So I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. The life of a lobbyist, I think, is what we determined the conversation was last night. We are going to get into some of the details of these bills at a committee level. Does anybody have any questions? We don't have any questions. Look at that. All right. Thanks, guys, for the update. I appreciate that and look forward to talking to you soon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair Doherty,
Mr. Doherty, go ahead.
just popped into my mail-in.
Yeah.
What is the tenor for this administrator, 1449? Does it feel like there's positive or negative leanings on that from everybody?
Are you talking about the tenor from those in Springfield? Because we had a conversation about that at the local level, as you know.
Yeah, Springfield, yeah, whatever, anything new locally, whatever.
So I guess I can address that a little bit. I did have a conversation with the representative about this particular bill. I was going to get into that here shortly, but again, this is an unfunded mandate that removes local control from us. So I would present to you and ask, we can have that discussion. I know Louis talked to Ms. Ness as well. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, in terms of it was assigned to committee yesterday, which means now's the time where folks can file witness slips, whether to support or oppose. At the moment, no one has filed a witness slip, but we should expect to see some over the next coming days now that it's been assigned to committee.
You'll see one in about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We're going to move on to new business. And on top of that new business is House Bill 1449, which is the Ness bill for the county administrator situation. So I just want to get into a little conversation about that. It is everyone on the legislative committee was contacted last week about this. It should be the position, in my opinion, that we oppose this. There's been a letter drafted to Representative Ness. Again, we are grateful for our legislators, but we cannot support unfunded mandates. So it's open for discussion. Anyone? And again, I will just reiterate that the representative was very pleasant. We had a great conversation about it. ISACO also, we had a conversation with them. I don't think there's a county on the planet that will support this because again, it is an unfunded mandate that takes away local control. I do understand and respect the idea, but in our conversations, it should be up to us and we have to work that out. So I don't agree that it's a state thing and we should actively oppose this. So is there any objection at all to opposing this piece of legislation?
Madam Chair, a quick question around here.
Go ahead.
Is any
Mr.
language
Arroyo.
available to read?
It's Mr. Arroyo. What?
Yeah, sorry, Alex Roy here. Any language to read on this for this bill?
Yeah, if you go to ILGA.
Okay.
I have it here if you want to read
Oh,
it.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. somewhere here. Give me a minute on that. Anybody else have any comments about this?
Yes, I have.
Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you very much. When I talked to Representative Ness about this bill, it came as quite a surprise to me. And obviously I've been advocating for this for county administrator for Kane County since I've arrived. Her major concern is to ensure that, and I understand the unfunded mandate, I get that. But her major concern was the fact that she wanted to make sure that all counties, and we're one of the very few rare counties that doesn't have a county administrator in Illinois, over a population of 100,000 or more, have a county administrator to help manage the budget. And that was her major, that's what she shared with me, which I completely support. So why the intent of this bill, I would commend. I truly would. I understand that it is an unfounded mandate. Obviously, it is the purview of this board to decide whether or not you'd like to support this or not, and the committee. I'm going to request that I take a neutral position on this because I truly believe that we need a county administrator. And I understand the concerns we've had financially about being able to fund this. I get that. I own that. But nonetheless, we are a very large county and we have a very small staff to manage this county without question. And having that opportunity to have a seasoned, well thought out county administrator on board, to me would be welcoming. So, but this, beyond that, I knew nothing about this bill. It came to me as a surprise. I had no input on it at all. And so it's here.
Noted. I just, neutral. This committee is going to oppose it. If there's no objection, I'll be sending that letter today. Ms. Strathman.
Yeah, I would just like to weigh in on this before,
Yes.
before we figure out what we're doing. I have the problem I have with it is the unfunded part. I think that there have been times when I think we should use and it should get an administrator. I think that that would be helpful in a lot of different cases, kind of a oversight and person who can be the go-between for a lot of different departments, department heads, the board, Madam Chair, all of it. It's not that I am against the idea of an administrator. I think we could use one, especially with the size of Kane County. But the unfunded part is the part that I have trouble with.
Thank you.
To go on record saying that.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right.
Arroyo here, just
Arroyo, go
a
ahead.
comment quickly. Alex Arroyo. I'm again, new to this. This is no opinion whatsoever, but if we were to hire a county administrator, we're gonna have to completely redo our organizational chart, won't we? Of department heads.
So,
We'd have to basically rewrite our.
Mr. Arroyo, to your point there, and welcome to the conversation here. We've been having this conversation for some time. Just specifically to this bill, though, I don't think there's an argument that we need to have the conversation about a county administrator. We obviously need to continue that at this level. I agree with that. There has been, my personal concerns are not just the unfunded mandate part when it comes to a county administrator, but also relinquishing some of our power as county board members. I think there's a way to navigate that. Other counties have done so. What that looks like is we haven't gotten there yet. Also, to your point is we, in my opinion, do not support any legislation that takes away local government control. And that's what this does. And so I agree with you. But I think that's a key part of it too. And would like that to just bring that to your attention that we're trying to maintain our local control, not give it away. So,
And Madam Chair?
yeah, Ms. Strathman.
I agree with that. And I think that it would be important for us as we discuss this, that we put in place our thoughts and ideas about what role the administrator should play. We all have some history with administrators, and it's not always good. Sometimes they take on a life of their own and don't do the will of the board that they are supposed to be representing. And I think when we create this process to look at this in depth, we should make sure that those parameters are in place so that we don't relinquish our control. But I do think we need the position.
Very
That's-
good. So
That's my 2 cents.
thank you very much. And with that, for our lobbyist team also, we'll be sending that letter out. We'll do witness slips. And so officially, we are going to oppose this legislation. And I say that with grace, just so you're aware, because the representative is fantastic. We had a great conversation. She understands. So we need to make sure that we always keep those communications open. Our team is aware of this. So yeah, I think it's a good choice for us, and maybe we can have that conversation in the next few months about how to acquire that, but that's not for this committee, I think. Madam Chair, go ahead.
What's interesting, just anecdotally, is that I'm doing a survey, and Louis and I talked about this, Bill, just doing a quick survey of all the other counties within Illinois that have or do not have a county administrator. We're rare. We're one of the rare few ones.
We're one of 9.
That do not have one. And it's certainly a county of our size is even rarer. We are the only one. We're the unicorn. So not having that, I think this Representative Ness looked at us, and I don't think it was because of the length of a meeting. It was simply, she's concerned about how the county is managing its finances. And that's what she shared with me. But
And I look forward to having those conversations.
I appreciate your concern about local control, but they're just pointing out that, to me, you ought to consider it.
Yeah, I guess, I'm not a
Arroyo.
lawyer here. I apologize.
Arroyo.
Alex Arroyo here, apologize. Will the hiring of a county administrator eliminate the need for a county chairman?
No, totally different, totally
So
different.
that is a question that is not for this meeting, but yes.
Okay,
we can
I was curious.
appreciate the question,
Yeah,
but I don't think that,
No, they're
this-
aligned. They're aligned together.
it would be like coming from Aurora, we have a strong mayor, weak council, and then you have Naperville as a weak mayor with a city administrator.
Don't think, as far as a municipality, it's a different entity.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm thinking as an analogy that why do we have a county board chairman if we're gonna have an administrator? I mean,
No,
again, different conversation, different, I was curious, like.
but
what
you
the
have a
role of-
mayor, and
Yeah.
you have administrator.
Genesis here. I don't think there's any counties that don't have a chairman. I know like Will County has a Will County executive,
They
but they all
different
have
form of
chairman.
governance.
Sure.
They have a different form of governance.
right? Yeah.
but again, to that point is those are questions that we need to navigate the waters of and figure out how to get to the ultimate goal. I think that a county administrator is a great idea. I just don't know how to get there. So we'll continue with that going forward, but this one we don't like. Very good. All right. We're going to move on. I'm going to remove B from the new business agenda, which was House Bill 2410, and that is the euthanasia bill. I had gotten an email from Brett in our animal control in opposition to this, but it looks like there's some things that are going to be on hold. So they're going to do a little working. I'm going to connect him with our lobbyist team as well to discuss this. And then he also brought up another bill, Senate Bill 128. So I'm going to connect Brett with our team, and they can, as the experts, I'll let him deal with them. So that's that one. We'll get rid of that one. And then
Euthanasia ban.
and then moving on, we're going to go to House Bill 2354 and House Bill 2355. Now, these are the leasing bills that have been discussed as it relates to the Fabian property, to the King County Cougar situation. They're going forward. They have not been, Louis, are you still there? They have not been assigned a committee, as far as I know, last night.
The House bills have not, but the Senate versions have.
Okay, so there are a few hiccups with these two bills, which we were navigating last night with civil, and they'll be working with, the team is working with Hirschauer and Castro. On some language, there's some opposition, so they're navigating that. I think we support these. I don't think there's any reason to pull back on our progress on these, but there are some details that need to be worked out still.
Could you explain a little bit what that is, or maybe Louis can?
I would say that maybe Louis can expand on this, but there is some opposition to our bills from some major players. They have issues with our language. So we are going to navigate that as gently as we can. But there's some major players that are up. Louis, do you want to speak on that or not?
Yeah, I believe this is an issue. There's not a concern with what we're trying to do, just the language might be a bit too broad and might have unintended consequences. So we're trying to get past that, working with staff and some other representatives to get to where we need to be. But it's not an issue with exactly what we're looking to do. It's just, there's these unintended consequences. There's a lot of counties and folks might be looking to use it for purposes greatly beyond what we intend. So we'll
Like
work.
like buying a strip mall.
Buying a strip mall, yeah.
That's what
No,
I'm heard.
but they are working very hard to navigate this to get it done. So I applaud that. And that brings us to the Senate Bill 1424 and 1447, also addressing these same two issues. They're going forward smoothly, it looks like. I believe Castro's is coming up today at 4 p.m. Is that accurate, Louis?
Yes, but they might be held in light of these issues that just arose.
Okay, so we'll look forward to an update on that, but I know you're working hard on it. And then epically failed here. Sorry to the staff. I would like to call up Claire and team to address, what am I addressing? It's temporary, it's a 25-233 and 25-235. And I would ask them to come up and speak on this right now, if that's okay, because I epically failed. And I apologize. So I owe you one. And so what we're looking for from this committee is for consensus for them. It's going to be on the environment meeting on Friday. So I'm looking for consensus on this. I see no problems with it myself, but if we could get an explanation, thank you.
Sure. And, I do apologize if a resolution wasn't the right avenue for this. I just, what I was hoping to do is,
Can you just identify what it is?
oh,
first?
yeah. My name's Claire Ryan. I'm the Kane County Recycling Coordinator. And what we're hoping to do is have the county support Senate Bills 2414 and its sister bill in the House, House Bill 3098, which are to reauthorize with minor amendments the Consumer Electronics Recycling Act. That's a state law that essentially creates an extended producer responsibility bill that helps creates a manufacturer funding to help recycle consumer electronics. And it's essentially underpins our recycling centers and our recycling events for electronics throughout the county. The original bill was passed it went into effect in 2016 with a 10-year time horizon. So it was basically written in that it would expire because I think part of the reason that was done is that the previous bill had structural issues that made the programs essentially fail. So they didn't want to kind of commit to a new way without knowing that it would work, but it has worked. And really the amendments to the bill don't really affect what we'll be doing here in the county at all. So hopefully we can support it.
I have no opposition to this. I was able to pull up the energy and environment agenda and read through them. Again, I epically failed. This was sitting in my draft bucket, so. But I am in support of your initiatives. So without objection, we hope it passes through energy and environment.
Okay. And then Austin has one as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, Austin.
Austin Powell, Sustainability Coordinator here at Kane County. I briefly just wanted to talk in support of SB 1397. This is a piece of state legislation to incentivize the use of finished compost and digestate on commercial and specialty farm operations. I have three key points to what this does. First, it just sets up a grant program for the next 3 years, fiscal years 26, 27, and 28, where a private or public entity who wants to place compost on their commercial or specialty farm operations can get a grant up to $50,000. So for each of these 3 fiscal years, the grant award can be up to 2 million of the fund, but a grant awardee can only get up to $50,000. So this in essence is really just promoting a market for compost in the county, which is already placed within our climate action implementation plan of creating a market. So that's the basic overview of this state bill.
Thank you for that. I am in support of that as well, and I hope it passes through Energy and Environment. We do have one question, Mr. Roth.
Roth here. Have we run that by agricultural too, since it seems like it should also be under agriculture?
We have not run it by agriculture yet at this point. We
Okay.
brought it to you first.
Okay. I would recommend we would, especially the Farm Bureau.
Okay.
Thank you.
Noted. Very good point. So I anticipate you guys will reach out to AgDem. Thank you very much. If there's no objection, we'll support those as well. You guys are capable of doing witness slips too, right? Okay. All right, moving on. Where are we? House Bill 3563 and Senate Bill 2416. This is the wind and solar facility draining. Ms. Bates is not here. And I don't have anybody to discuss this, so we're going to remove that. And then finally, Senate Bill 1249, Senator DeWitt's emergency vehicle was brought to us by our friend in the Office of Emergency Management. This, in short, is allowing our emergency management vehicles to partake in what I know to be, as a former dispatcher, the Opticons. So when you're going up to a red light and there's a ambulance behind you and you see the white light go on, that's allowing them to travel through that. The language included in this bill does have, the language does include that it must be county vehicles. I fully support this. I believe our emergency management team does need this. It also has to be, they have to be responding to an emergency, so that matters as well. And the little history of this many years ago, there was some opposition to our, so we used to have, I don't know if they still even out there or not, to be honest with you, but there used to be volunteer fire department blue lights. Are they still around? I don't even know if they are.
Yes.
So they used to kind of push the limits of when they could use their little lights and when they couldn't. So there was a little history in opposition to that. I think that's maybe why the Office of Emergency Management got excluded from this, but we're going to fix that with this. And I am in full support of it and would ask for your support as the committee as well. If there's no objections, we'll support that as well.
Can you define, I'm sorry. Can you define what would be considered an emergency for emergency management?
Our Office of Scott's not on, is he? No. Buzecki.
Because it's not taking somebody to the hospital. It's not responding to an accident.
So I will give you an example, what I believe it is. Okay, so an example would be, you have the sheriff's department out at the scene of, let's say a tornado hits, right? So now they've called the Office of Emergency Management now because they need assistance because there's a gigantic oak tree that's leaning on top of a telephone pole. So that would be an emergent situation, right? We need to free up our sheriff's department. So we need them to get there as quickly as possible. So that would be my example. Mr. Gripe.
Yeah, just a minor thing. DeWitt has 2 E's in it, not 3.
DeWitty,
There's an extra E at the end.
there's
Yeah.
one extra E.
I apologize for that.
No,
Did
that's
I
all right.
type that?
It's just a typo.
It's just a
Scrivener's error.
scribbler's error.
With all due respect, Mr. DeWitt, I do apologize for that.
I'll tell him you did.
I don't think he's on the line.
Picking on me. Okay,
I'm sorry.
we were gonna have our discussion
Chair.
about, Mr. Roth, go right ahead.
At judicial, Scott did talk about this. And he used an example, exactly what you just said. When there's an emergency tornado, whatever, and they need to get somewhere. Right now, they're being held up, which could
Right.
cause issues.
all of, I will note with our Office of Emergency Management and Public Safety, it's like people don't see them in the news. They don't see them around, but they're there all the time. That they're an essential part of our public safety. And a lot of those things are volunteers. I mean, what really, I don't remember what the number was, but wasn't it around
30 volunteers,
but the hours was like 11.
13,000, I think
some-
was the
some
latest. Yeah.
Crazy number. And
They're the infrastructure that makes it work.
oh, yeah, without doubt. And I just wanted to highlight that because they all do a fantastic job. And I know everybody's super excited about public safety here. So let's give them the nod on that. Witness slips. What I'm going to ask this committee to do is for our new board members that are not familiar with doing witness slips, I would like to have a one-on-one with you so we could do that training if you need it. If you don't need it, that's fine. I don't think essential for this committee to go through another structured tutorial on this. I think we could do it one-on-one. So, and then also joining, before we leave new business, I do apologize. Mr. Rickard is here and he has a few words. He's always engaged in our legislative, so go ahead. I apologize, Tom.
That's fine. Tom Rickard, Kane County Division of Transportation. Just a few things. Louis already mentioned Senate Bill 1909. That's the quick take Senate bill. The sponsored is Senator DeWitt. It's online if you want to take a look at it. It's pre-detailed bill with all the parcels that we need to look at. Quick take for last month, I already described why we have to do this. So hopefully everybody's up to speed on that, but it is proceeding forward and we're working with the county engineers lobbyists as well as with McGuire Woods in order to make sure that this goes smoothly. And so far, so good. The next item is last month, I briefly talked about Safe Streets for All, the safety action plan that Kane County is moving forward with. There's federal funds involved with that. I think I mentioned to a couple of you that it was temporarily on hold. We're still continuing to proceed forward. The Illinois Department of Transportation has basically said for us to continue forward with our federal projects. And so we're continuing to do that. That has a public hearing or a public meeting this Saturday at the Edward Schock Center of Elgin. So if you have any interest in that, again, that's our safety action plan for the entire county and includes county highways as well as state routes and municipal streets. So it's encompassing all. And so if you're interested in that, again, it's at the Edward Schock Center of Elgin from 10 until noon this Saturday. And then the final thing is I laid at your desk, I laid the brochure. This is the brochure last month that I promised you. It's what we're going to utilize when we visit our legislators. It primarily is region-wide. The staffs of all the counties work together with CMAP to produce it. We're making copies of it to bring to DC as well as to utilize in certain cases in Springfield. The primary projects in here haven't changed. It's the hops at Randall. We're continuing to prioritize that. For those on the Transportation Committee, you saw the breakdown in funding the other day, and there's a lot of federal funds involved in this, probably about 4 or 5 different federal funding types of funds, as well as state funding. And so that's Randall at Hops. And then Randall at I-90 is also in here from essentially from Big Timber to Illinois 72 is a prioritized area. The reason for that, again, if you're on Transportation Committee, we have a bridge over I-90 that has to be replaced. And that bridge will have to be replaced within the next 5 to 10 years. Associated with that is also necessary capacity improvements. And so we're looking at about a 60, maybe $75 million project that we have to do no matter what. And so we have to figure out how to fund that. We have to put together a funding package. So it's prioritized. technically you can't spend federal funds on a toll interchange, but we can on Randall Road, we can on the bridge, and so we're going to be figuring out a funding package because obviously we need to keep Randall Road and the interchange open. And so we got 5 to 10 years to figure it out. I'm going to say 5 because we want to make sure that we're moving faster rather than assuming we might have 10 years for that bridge.
We don't want to, Gums here, we don't want to take chances on the safety of our bridges.
Yeah, no, and bridges are, again, I've always said to the county board that our priority is maintaining the existing system and safety. And so this is a requirement. We have to figure out how we have to do that. Over the next year or two, you will be hearing ideas and we will be meeting with the tollway and with our federal legislators and state legislators to figure out a funding package. And then the final thing is the Randall Road Safety Improvement Projects. We've had a significant amount of public engagement at our hearings, both in the Elgin area and up in the Algonquin area. A lot of our citizens consider Randall Road to be a barrier that's even more dangerous than the Fox River as a barrier to pedestrians and bicyclists. And so there's a lot of interest, a lot of calls that we start addressing some of the bicycle pedestrian elements. Obviously, there's a significant funding shortfall to do any of that. To throw in pedestrian and bicycle improvements, just at one intersection is over $1 million. And so there's a lot of costs associated with that. So we need to put together funding packages to address that. The engineering is underway, but this handout that you each have describes those 3 primary efforts in Kane County. And so I promised this last month. I wanted to make sure that I brought you copies because we'll be bringing it to DC in 2 weeks and utilizing this document. So that's all I have.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Ricker? No? Oh, Mr. Grape.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The quick take process, I understand most of that, but I was curious, does that have to be approved in the Illinois House or legislature each time somebody wants to use it?
Yeah, anytime. The only entity or agency that actually has full-time quick take authority is the state of Illinois. So anytime a county or municipality needs it for a project, it's usually associated with a high priority project. It's usually associated with funding scenarios that need to help facilitate the land acquisition. And so it's just a means that benefits both the public entity as well as the property owner in the short term. In typical eminent domain, you're in the courts for years. This helps the public agency get the land sooner, as well as the property owner get money, and then we're still negotiating and discussing the value of the property after that initial assessment preliminary hearing of the judge.
Thank you.
Ms. Strathman was next, and then
Thank
Ted
you.
Newby.
This is a lot of really great information. When you talked about Randall Road, it brought to mind, when we talk about pedestrian and bicycle safety, are those always together in the same category? Or can we do one or the other? How does
Yeah.
that work?
You can do one or the other. Typically, it depends on your level of comfort on certain facilities. But
And when you say your level of comfort, whose?
the individual that might be walking
Okay,
along a roadway, whether it's a township or county or municipal, that level of comfort. There are some bicyclists I would consider to be expertise. They would prefer to ride their bike on Randall Road, and they legally have a right to. But then there are some that would prefer to have a separate facility. And our goal is to do our best to address the safety for all users. It's not perfect, obviously, and there are a lot of accidents. And so we are involved in reducing those accidents as best we can.
Oh,
And
sure. And it makes me think, though, there are state roads that prohibit bicyclists and pedestrians as well, right? I mean, how did you get to that classification?
Yeah, I think that those are typically on your more of your interstate type systems. But most of your state routes, county routes, the bicyclists and the pedestrian have equal footing as far as using. In fact, you'll see if you drive around the county on county routes, you'll see signs that we put up that says
Bless you.
share the road.
Yes.
Because a lot of these roads were actually initially in the late 1800s and early 1900s. They were actually paved in order to accommodate bicycles. The historical context is that most of these roads were built for bicycles. And so we do our best to make sure as best we can that public knows that pedestrians and bicycles and cars all have equal footing on the road, and we need to share the road.
Well, you just educated me, so I appreciate that.
Yep.
Mr. Pennis?
Yeah, specifically, I had a question for you, Tom, regarding the Hops Randall interchange. I'm assuming all those landowners are aware of the project. I know there was a public hearing I wasn't able to attend. I had another meeting, but they're all aware of this.
Yeah, they've all received I think at least 2 mailings, maybe 3, and including certified mail. It's kind of a mixture of mailing types because some people just refuse to sign off on the certified mail.
Certified, right.
So we've done our best to make sure, as well as we are starting the whole negotiation process. Be assured that throughout the quick take, we will be talking with the property owners. We will continue to be negotiating, and even after the initial preliminary aspect of the quick take, we will continue to be working with the property owners. It's part of our entire process.
And then to follow up on that, I sure hope that we can get that interchange done. If, for example, federal funding isn't available for that overpass, if they could at least start work on getting that interchange done. I mean, that is a safety issue. You know, this is
Yeah.
part of CMAP, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, that's a safety issue that needs to be addressed, you know. So I hope that we could get started on that at least if the federal funding falls away, you know, for the overpass.
We initially started the phase 2 engineering. We did the phase 1 for the entire segment. The phase 2 engineering, we initially started just the intersection because we didn't know that there would be this federal funding that would come forward. Then a few months ago, we came through the county board and got the additional funding to do the full segment because of the 25 million in infra. And then the state of Illinois put I think it's 12 or 13 million in ICC grade separation funds. So the funding package is all falling into place. If for some reason something does happen, and again, I personally like to be positive. I don't like to speculate. But if something does happen, we are able to still proceed forward with the intersection. We probably have to spend a little bit extra time to break it back out. But we need to proceed forward as if we're going to be doing the full project.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Very good. Does anybody else have any questions? No. All right, under old business, I'm gonna remove the discussion about the county code. Jobs is handling something on this. So I just want to wait for that first. Our co-chair is not available right now. We have no reason for executive session. I would entertain a motion to place the reports on file.
Gripe moves for unanimous consent to place all the reports on file.
All right, so ordered without objection. And I want to thank Mr. Doherty.
Oh, okay. You're removing the county code, removing co-chairs.
I am.
Does that mean it's no longer an issue, or it has not?
It does not. It does not.
It's not, so it's not going to come up.
No, it may come up again, but not today.
but it could come up tomorrow.
It is actually, it's gonna be handled in the Jobs Committee, so there's already a draft process for that. So we're gonna wait for that process to go forward, and then we'll have a further discussion. So yes, we'll have a further discussion.
All right, so I'll find out more on Friday. Thanks.
Yeah, no, to your point. Sorry about that.
I move to
Why?
adjourn.
I'll call you later.
I move to adjourn.
Oh, did you hear that? Move to adjourn. All right, all in favor?
I'll second
Aye.
it and then I'll say aye.
Oh, second and I. All right, very good. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today.